on Sunday mornings. But I'm joined by Robbie Jeffries. Find him on Twitter at NFL Robbie, and the Wrath of Fantasy with the 1-3 at the end. That is Kevin Steele. Find him on Twitter at FantasyWrath13. Boys, we're going into week 6 already. Just feels like this is happening very quickly.
Yeah, we're already 1/3 of the way through the fantasy season, and man, it's weird when you look at the wide receivers that we had pop off last week. We had Travis Fulgham and Clay Claypool as the top two, so just as we suspected. It's been a ride so far.
Kev, how you feeling today?
Great. Another week of football. I'll never complain.
Well, we had we got to jump right into this. We had our guy Max Packard just camping out. He pulled up a chair, plopped it down. He's sitting there first in line with his ticket. He's been chilling with us for a little bit here, so he has a couple we're going to rattle off. Let's jump right into them. Non-PPR, Jefferson or Claypool. He heard Johnson is out, and that is correct. Deontay Johnson is not playing today. So between these two, who are you guys going with? Are you chasing the points with Claypool, or are you going back to the disappointment well with Jefferson? How are you guys feeling on these two receivers?
I don't really want to chase points all the time, but in this matchup for Chase Claypool against the Browns, the Browns are giving up third most touchdowns and third most yards to wide receivers. So with Deontay out, I kind of like that play. Again, Justin Jefferson now also has a good matchup as well, but I'll probably go Chase Claypool there.
Kev, who are you rocking with out of these two?
Well, starting the podcast off right. Already disagreeing. Yeah, I want give me Justin Jefferson here. Listen, I mean, Chase Claypool. Look, it was like the most kind of a pretty fluky game, right? Like I don't know, he's not going to score that kind of touchdown every single week. I think Justin Jefferson is in a better matchup here, and in a game that I feel like that as long as Atlanta can push the Vikings, is going to be a matchup the Vikings are going to have to throw the ball. This Cleveland-Pittsburgh game feels a little bit more low scoring, low pace. And so for me, I would just rather play Justin Jefferson, who is in just as good, if not better, matchup here, because there is nobody on the Atlanta side of the ball that worries me whatsoever on defense. So, and I think one key for Atlanta today is getting Julio Jones back, and I think that has been the biggest reason why we've seen kind of a fall off in Atlanta's offense, because they have not scored a touch. Matt Ryan has not thrown a passing touchdown since first half of week 3, and that's pretty much coincides with them not having Julio. And so I just think that getting him back kind of opens things up for the rest of this offense. And Minnesota is certainly not a secondary that you're really worried of either. So I think this game has a lot of really high potential to be high scoring. So.
Yeah, I think both matchups are obviously really great. I think what kind of just changes it for me is that Pittsburgh is just going to throw a lot more than the Vikings. At least they have consistently so far this season. They're averaging 36 attempts per game, where the Vikings, except for last week, were all under 27 attempts per game. So just that volume a little bit. Obviously, the touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, you probably shouldn't expect that, but he still had a better target share even than Jefferson did. If you're telling me who's more likely to lead their team in wide receiver targets, I can more likely see Chase Claypool leading over Juju than I can Justin Jefferson leading over Thielen. So, but yeah, I like both matchups.
I like both matchups as well. I think both of you guys made good points. I should just abstain from this, because no matter what I say, it's just going to be tainted by my wanting to see the Steelers burn and my Chase Claypool hate. But I would go Jefferson here. Just because I do think that there are going to be more pass attempts in general in that game. I think the Steelers are going to be able to control that game against the Browns a little bit easier than the Vikings against the Falcons. So that's kind of where I'm sitting there. Let's jump into we got Coop Dog and A Machine joining us. We have 3 of our guys in here. There was another. Yeah, we got another Claypool question. Robbie, you called it before the show. You think we're going to get a lot of Claypool questions, and we already have 2 of them. Coop Dog wants to know, going against a tough opponent, which kind of tells me he needs upside. Chase Claypool, Amari Cooper, Chase Edmonds at flex. Kev, how you feeling with these 3?
I mean, it's Amari, but I don't feel as great about it as I probably would have. I think there's a good chance that Amari sees quite a bit of Patrick Peterson, which Patrick Peterson's not the same guy he used to be. But we've also been seeing with Amari not just his snap share, but his routes have been dropping almost every week. Week 1, it was 100%, 90% week 2, 82% week 3, 82% week 4, and then 74% week 5. And he only ran 25 routes last week, only saw 4 targets. Like, that is somewhat concerning. Now, is that just a one week thing? Very well could be. I do wonder if he's nursing some sort of injury that we don't truly know about. But now having Andy Dalton back there is certainly not as enticing as, whenever Dak was back there. But I still think you have to go Amari. If you're absolutely shooting for upside, I guess you could go Claypool, but I still would be hard-pressed to not start Amari Cooper.
Robbie, you rolling Cooper there as well?
Yeah, I actually got this exact same question from a buddy between Claypool and Cooper, and I think you're getting just a little bit too cute if you're trying to play Claypool there, so I'll go Cooper, but Kev, I don't think it would surprise either of us if Cooper is the distant third behind Gallup and Lamb this week for some reason, and Claypool leads that offense for the Steelers. So we'll go Cooper. I'll match with him there.
Kev, I'm going to come to you with this one. Non-PPR, Max wants to know Ingram, McKissick, Gore, Pirine. It is ugly out there in those bye-week streets.
Well, I actually think Michael Pirine is actually an interesting stash. It's kind of went under the radar because it's the Jets. So once they released Le'Veon Bell, Adam Gase said that they were going to get Pirine more involved in the offense. He's got a much larger role, which, I mean, shocking, right? That they're not going to feed their 37-year-old running back. So with Pirine, but the thing is with him, it's still a really bad offense. But I think you could probably expect a little bit more juice from Pirine. But, if I'm somebody, I would stash Pirine if he's available in any league that I'm in. Even though it's the Jets, it feels gross. Like, it wasn't something that was immediately exciting me, but as I've kind of looked through everything on this week, I think he's somebody that, I would want to get ahead of. Because even though he's not somebody that's going to be a league winner that's going to all of a sudden start ripping off 20-point fantasy performances, but I think that he could be somebody that there's a flex option, kind of gives you some, maybe an option where you can get 10 to 13 fantasy points in PPR leagues. He was a decent pass catcher, if I remember, coming out of college as well. So he does have some of that there, but it is gross. But as in terms of just this week, with it being non-PPR, I'd probably go Ingram and hope that he falls into the end zone. It's just tough because I don't really want to play anybody from Baltimore either, because that they're just splitting it up 3 different ways between Edwards and Dobbins and Ingram, and so you really can't trust any of them on who's going to get what. It's just maddening as a fantasy owner to try to figure that out. And so, but at this situation, I just can't see myself playing Frank Gore. And McKissick is kind of out in a non-PPR format, because if it was PPR, I'd probably go McKissick. But with it being non-PPR, probably would go with Ingram.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ingram as well. That game opened up with Baltimore being 7.5-point favorites on the road, and that has been bet all the way to 10.5 currently. So non-PPR, I think Ingram out of that group has the best chance to fall into the end zone. So Max, third question here. Robbie, I'm going to come to you with this one. Do I start Minshew or pick up Cousins? So let's start there first. Are you rolling Minshew or Cousins this week?
Yeah, I'm fine with rolling Gardner Minshew there. Obviously, Kirk has a really good matchup this week, but I'm not really worried against that Detroit Lions secondary for Minshew either. They're without Desmond Trufant and their secondary. The Lions are, so I'm just fine with rolling Gardner.
You're not even going to mess with picking him up and possibly dropping one of those other quarterbacks.
No, because if you're talking about going forward, Breeze is going to get Michael Thomas back. Cousins, he's still in a division where most of his opponents, I'm not trying to start him against the Bears. I'm not trying to start him against the Packers. So I think more often than not, I'm going to want to start Breeze or Minshew over Cousins.
We got a machine out here making trades. How do you let's break this one down quick for a machine. Traded away OBJ, Mixon, and Watson. Got Carson, Julio, and Montgomery. Going out here looking for consistency. A lot of names that he gave up there on his side. How do you feel about the return on this trade?
Fantastic. I mean, Carson's a top 10 running back. Continually has been a top 10 running back throughout this year. Julio is a little scary, obviously, but I think people's calling of his demise, I think, is premature if he can get healthy. And then David Montgomery's been a 3-down back. So, if I can get my hands on that, that's what I'm. I would much rather have the two running backs and Julio than OBJ, Mixon, and Watson. And I assume that he probably already has another really good quarterback and to supplant that. So,
yeah, we talked about that roster a little bit. I can't remember who he has, but that's like just giving away like that name cachet. Like at first I saw that and I was like OBJ and Mixon and Watson, holy shit. But if you're going for consistency, I don't think you can argue with that. So Robbie, going to come to you this one from Jim. Need to bench one of these: Hollywood Brown, Ridley, Jefferson, Juju, Godwin. Who's sitting the pine? Who's on the pine?
Yeah. A lot of good names there. A couple of them coming off, Godwin coming off of injury. So that's going to be interesting against the Packers, who are actually pretty good against the pass, but I think you still have to roll Godwin there as hopefully Brady's number one. I'm probably going to sit Marquise Brown just as kind of that boomer bust guy. Now he faces the Eagles and I'm fine with that matchup, but if we're talking about these names, I'm not sitting Ridley. I'm not sitting Godwin. I could see someone, sitting Juju. He obviously hasn't been that impressive. But again, if I talk about that matchup against the Cleveland Browns, no Greedy Williams, no Carl Joseph over the top at safety. He's out this week as well. I just think the Browns secondary is absolutely, available to be torched. And so I'll probably sit Marquise Brown there.
I agree with that one as well. Kev, you have any differing opinions on there? Or you benching Hollywood?
No, yeah, I agree.
Coop Dog also wants to know if he should attempt to trade Amari Cooper for Chris Godwin or Cooper Kupp. Do you like either of those names over Amari?
Both of them. Yeah, if you get either one of them, I would take that trade.
Do you have a preference between the two?
Well, obviously you can get Chris Godwin. That's what I want. But can Chris Godwin stay healthy is the question. I mean, 2 games he's had, he's been pretty productive. It's just he's just not been able to stay healthy with various injuries. So hopefully he's right now and can come back and maybe play for 2 weeks in a row. That would be actually great.
Hey, Harvey. Corey Moran has a question here. PPR League flex spot: Deebo Samuel or Deandre Swift?
No. Let's go back. What was that? Can you walk us through what that was? I don't think we can answer that question until we get an answer from you.
This is actually one of my roommates from Penn State, so that's
so he knows, but nobody else does. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I used to make so many random noises in our apartment that our neighbor thought we had a dog. So that was one of the noises I would continually make. And Harvey was one of our other roommates. So, hey, Harvey. There were a lot of drugs and alcohol involved during my time at Penn State. So it was funnier if you were there and if you understood what was happening. But anyway, Deebo or DeAndre, who we got here in that flex spot. I was kind of talking to him about this one last night rather. Debo not in a great spot. Deandre Swift is only being involved whenever they're behind for whatever fucking reason. Swift is only being used whenever they're trailing. And I don't really see them trailing to the point where he's going to need to be involved for the Lions. So out of these two, Robbie, who do you like between Debo or Swift?
Yeah, if you were telling me Adrian Pearson was sitting, he got into full practice on Friday after having an illness on Thursday, so it looks like he's probably going to be back in there, and it just kind of mushes up that Lions backfield. I'll probably just go Debo. They utilize him in different ways where he's not just going to be, outside, against Jalen Ramsey. They're going to, get him end around sweeps. They're going to move him around the offensive setup. So I'll probably go Debo.
This is a very easy call, and it's Deandre Swift. I want nothing to do with any 49er pass catcher this week outside of his name's George Kittle. The Rams have been absolutely elite against wide receivers. And it's not even close. They are crushing everybody in terms of what they're allowing in production to wide receivers so far through the first 5 games. They've only give up 14.7 fantasy points. The next closest is the Chicago Bears, who give up 17.2. They have allowed only 59 receptions for 665 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, this defense truly has been elite. Every week they have pretty much shut down the alpha wide receiver. So for me, like, I want no part of Debo. And I mean, to be honest with you, Deandre Swift has quietly, he's put up double-digit fantasy points in 3 of the 4 games that he's played. So give me Deandre Swift. I think Deandre Swift is a fine flex option for most weeks, and this week I don't think is going to be any different going against Jacksonville. So it is 0 Rams or at 0 49ers for me, and it's Deandre Swift.
Also, shout out to Corey Moran for joining us. He's all the way out on the West Coast, rocking with us from Oregon. So waking up with us, 8 a.m. out there, grinding, joining the TFA crew. We appreciate it, man. George wants to know, Gibson or Jefferson today, PPR flex. Robbie, who you rocking with there? Another Jefferson question.
Yeah, I'll probably go... that's pretty tight because Gibson surprisingly has been splitting snaps continually with McKissick. They like to use McKissick in that 2-minute offense, it was just weird when Alex Smith got in because he's just doing dump off after dump off. I don't know if he threw a pass past 6 yards. So as much as I want to roll with the running back here and just, get for sure the 12 plus touches that Gibson will probably get, I think I'd rather have Jefferson in this matchup.
That's Antonio Gibson for me.
You're going Gibson?
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on your thoughts at all, or you just want to say because Robbie said Jefferson?
Well, if you would shut up, I would let you know.
Well, if you would have started to talk, I wouldn't have had to. Well,
because it was such a clear cut for me, I didn't really feel like I needed to go into an explanation, but. It's Antonio Gibson. This isn't a matchup that scares me all that much going against the Giants. He is seeing solid work. Last week he played 65% of the snaps. He's still running routes. He's getting targets every week. He's had 10 targets each of the last 2 weeks or over the last 2 weeks. So he's seeing usage as well as a pass catcher. Can he find the end zone? That's the question. But again, the Giants don't really scare me. They went back to Kyle Allen, who loves to check the ball down to his running backs. And so for me, I don't think you're going to see a ton of production today from Terry McLaurin because James Bradbury is likely going to shadow him and has been absolutely elite. So far this year, outside of week 1, he's played really, really well for the Giants and has really done a good job at shutting down number 1 wide receivers. So I think they're going to have to find some other production from other ways, and I think that's Antonio Gibson. He is the most explosive player they have, not named Terry McLaurin. So I do like him. So
yeah, I'm not trying to fade Gibson at all. But yeah, again, when we're talking about that type of matchup, we had the differing side on the Claypool versus Jefferson, where I like the Claypool matchup. But Justin Jefferson going against the Falcons just seems like if you want to ask me who's more likely to get that big burst play and who's going to be on the field for that volume of work, I think I'll go Jefferson in that case. Welcome back, Kev, or welcome back, Cody.
Yeah, I have no idea what just happened there. Blacked out for a second. Shade 721 wants to know standard scoring: Julio or Hollywood?
Julio.
A Machine is out here making moves, making trades. Needs to bench. Pick 2. Juju, Julio, Diggs, Golladay, McLaurin. Kev, sounds like you are sitting McLaurin. Give us another one to sit out of that group, Robbie.
Yeah, my first sit would be Juju there. I'm not as down on McLaurin as Kev is, but if you're looking at those options, I'll probably bench McLaurin. The rest of those guys are wide receiver ones for me.
Josh Twenter rocking with us needs his QB2, Dalton or Goff?
It's Dalton.
Robbie. Yeah, it's probably Dalton. They're probably going to be playing catch up as the Cowboys have every single week, so I'll probably go Dalton there. But I have them one spot apart. Yeah, I have Dalton 16, Goff 17.
I guess how much higher? I have Andy Dalton as a QB1 this week.
There you go.
I just don't think there's anything. I know people like he has a bad rap for his last couple of years while he was in Cincinnati, but he is, of all the backup quarterbacks you possibly could have, like he certainly is one of the absolute best you possibly could have when given weapons back when he was in Cincinnati, back when AJ Green was in his prime, Marvin Jones, when they had all those weapons there, healthy Tyler Eifert, like he was a QB1. I mean, he had a QB top 5 season under his belt as well in Cincinnati. So I'm not, and it's not like he's old. He's like 31. So, I mean, this is the best weapons he's had in years. And so I think he can still produce. And I don't think this Cowboys offense is going to fall off dramatically. It's certainly not going to be the same with Dak, like I've said, but I definitely think that one for one, I think that he is not drastically off of what Dak is with all the weapons that they have. Their defense is still going to be absolutely horrendous. And so they're still going to have to throw the ball. And so with all the weapons they have, like it's hard for me not to like Andy Dalton. And this is a matchup against Arizona I'm not really all that concerned with. That their secondary, their defense doesn't, scare me. You have to stay away from Andy Dalton this week. So that's why I think Andy Dalton is a pretty locked in QB1 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one spot apart. I like both of their weapons. I mean, you want to talk about weapons, the Rams have weapons in their own right. So I'm right there with you.
Robbie, Max wants to know Claypool over Anderson, non-PPR.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'll probably just keep rolling Claypool there. I mean, it's so tough to want to sit Robbie Anderson. I'm assuming that's Robbie Anderson there. But I've been giving that Chicago secondary a lot of respect this entire year, and they don't give up big plays all that often. And I think that's kind of what you're hoping for with Robbie Anderson. So I will go chase Claypool.
I do wonder with the Bears secondary, are they actually as good as that, or have they just been lucky? Because in a lot of these games, the number one wide receivers have been out. Like when they played the Falcons, Julio was not playing. So they've kind of been afforded that luxury of not facing some of the team's best wide receivers. Robbie Anderson, the reason I would definitely go Robbie Anderson over Claypool is Robbie Anderson. It's hard. I mean, the guy's getting peppered with targets. He is running the short and intermediate routes. If this was, pre-Panther Robbie Anderson, where he was just running go routes and it's just the deep threat, of course, it'd be a much different conversation. But considering he's running so many short and intermediate routes, he's getting the high value targets. So it's definitely Robbie Anderson in this matchup against the Bears.
No, I think the Bears defense is just an actual good defense. I talk about Kyle Fuller has been playing like a top 5 corner this year. Eddie Jackson, man, like is one of the best safeties. I think he has a pick. Seems like every other game he's returning one for a touchdown. So no, this Bears secondary is just good. And so can Robbie Anderson get behind him? I'm sure he could, but I just really, really, really like the Steelers matchup against the Browns.
Yeah, I mean it's hard not to like that. As of right now, like I said, there's always context that is needed behind any stat, but as of right now, the Bears are giving up the second fewest fantasy points per game to both quarterbacks and wide receivers. So they are definitely playing well. Max Packard just got offered Mixon and Keenan Allen for MT. I'm assuming this is in that same non-PPR league. Kev, who do you like here on this trade? Mixon, Keenan, or MT?
Mixon and Keenan. I mean, with the way that Justin Herbert has been absolutely destroying worlds this year, has been playing so well, it really boosts Keenan Allen up. And most people that drafted him probably got him in the 4th through 6th round, depending on their league size. And he's really going to turn out to be a pretty solid value this year because of with the involvement of Justin Herbert and how well he's played. So unless Justin Herbert just falls off a cliff, it is certainly, I like that side, Keenan and Mixon.
Last fish in the pond joining us from Twitch this morning. Appreciate you jumping in. Standard League, Boyd or Anthony Miller?
Boyd and not close. Anthony Miller is behind Mooney in snaps and targets. Like, I think Mooney shouldn't even be rostered. Or excuse me, I don't think Miller should even be rostered.
That's so hurtful to hear.
Yeah,
watch. This is gonna be the game that Anthony Miller goes out and hauls in 4 for 80 and a touchdown.
Right, with Milet.
I agree, but I'll say this: like, it's not a good matchup for Tyler Boyd. He's probably going to see Marlon Humphrey quite a bit, who is, in my opinion, the best corner that the what.
I think it was last week, right?
Yeah, that's not this game. They are facing Indy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'm an idiot.
Hey, it wasn't me yet. And the best part is we have no COVID pushback, so I don't have to fuck that up 18
I don't have to tell you that a game has been postponed. Cody.
Oh, that's right. I'm an idiot. They're playing Philly. Okay, yeah. I got my games mixed up. So then,
definitely Boyd.
Yeah.
Kev, you are we are the Chase Edmonds truthers on here. We've been talking about him since the offseason. Mason wants to know if you would start him. We're not doesn't look like he's given us any other options, but just your general feelings on Chase Edmonds this week. Yeah,
you definitely could play him. This is not a matchup I'm not particular. I actually have Chase Edmonds ranked 18th this week. And I have Kenyan Drake ranked 35th.
Whoo. Mamacita.
What was their snap share from last week? That's what I'm interested in. Are they already starting to kind of show that switch that we have seen coming for a couple of weeks now?
I think it's just the fact that Kenyan Drake has been rumbling to like a 3-yard per carry average. Mm-hmm. He has not looked good.
Yeah, 67% for Drake last week. Chase Edmonds up to 45%. That's his highest percentage. So, we've consistently seen Chase Edmonds continue to rise in that snap share. So I'd like to know who he's trying to start him over for me. But yeah, he obviously did well last week as Kev predicted.
Yeah, Drake hasn't had anything lower than a 65% snap share, but Edmonds has been increasing 34, 35, 32, 37, and then 45 last week. So his snaps are on the rise. Amy, she wants to know, Kev, do you think Montgomery and Juju for Lamar is too much?
You probably need, well, one, I don't know. Do you need the trade? Because do you need a quarterback? Because Lamar has not played very well this year. Or let me put it this way: he has not built up to the expectations of where you would have drafted him, right? I'm assuming he'd be trading for Lamar in that scenario. So some of that's, I guess you'd be looking at it from here moving forward. He just hasn't been as efficient as he was last year. With the efficiency dropped, and he's not throwing the ball. They're 32nd in the league in pass attempts. I don't know. Like it would depend on what the rest of everything looked like, but I probably wouldn't. I am one that would never really trade for a quarterback. I just don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, Kev. I think you're saying exactly right. Like, you want to talk about a position that you can stream. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been, not rostered very often. Ryan Tannehill, he's someone that everybody had dropped after they missed a week. Kirk Cousins is a good stream for this week. So there's just a ton of options that you can go. Andy Dalton, right? So there's a ton of guys that you can stream at quarterback. Keep your running back depth there with Montgomery.
Do I say this our boy Drew, since we're since I'm answering his question. Our boy Drew wants to know start 2 in PPR: Julio, Scary Terry, Devontae Parker, Claypool, Boyd. Kev, which 2 are you rocking with here? I think Julio is the automatic, and then out of that other group, who are you rocking with?
I don't know. Julio is automatic. Like I'll say this, I was surprised he's even playing this week. It went from he didn't practice even earlier in the week before they shut down their facility, because he did not practice, did not play last week, and then he did not practice. I think the first 2 days of this week, and then all of a sudden after shutting things down, he's heading into this week without even an injury designation, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what happened. But if he's out there, I just can't. With the other options that he has, I just can't sit Julio. I do have Julio down a little bit further in my ranks. I think I have him ranked 9th among wide receivers. So normally I'd probably have him a little higher because I'm not really worried about this Minnesota defense. But so I go Julio, and then I'd probably go Tyler Boyd.
Robbie, who you got?
Yeah, I'll probably go Scary Terry there, actually. Kevin brought up a little bit of worry with his specific cornerback matchup, but the Giants have given up fantasy points to the wide receivers. So if we're talking Kyle Allen is their quarterback and not Alex Smith, I think that obviously helps Terry McLaurin a lot. So I'll probably go Julio and Terry, but I'm not against starting Devontae Parker or, obviously, as I've said this entire podcast, Chase Claypool at all. So I like a lot of these options, but if I have to pick 2, Julio and Terry McLaurin.
I think I would rank them Julio, Parker, Boyd, Claypool, and then Terry.
So I have Tyler Boyd at wide receiver 15 this week. I have Terry McLaurin at wide receiver 27. So as a wide receiver 3, and then Chase Claypool is wide receiver 34.
Yeah, I mean, against the Giants, you're not worried about it too much, but Bradbury has been playing well. That I just think with your other options, I would just stay away from Terry in that instance.
Yeah, with Tyler Boyd, I would definitely go there. The wide receiver 1 in Cincy.
I'm glad you can finally admit that. X-Scriv is joining us on Twitch. Wants to know, has Kamara on bye? CMC is out. That is rough, but needs 2 running backs out of this group: McKissick, Gore, Dobbins, and this is a 14-team PPR.
Yikes. PPR.
McKissick goes in, and then so down to Gore and Dobbins. I think you could roll Dobbins if you had to. I would also say drop Frank Gore and pick up LaMichael Pirine if he's out there.
Yeah, I do think he's the better stash, like you were touching on earlier, Kev, for sure. Pirine also has pass catching. He was just one of those running backs who never really seemed to put it all together for one game. He had games where he looked good as a runner. He had games where he looked good as a pass catcher, but I never saw one of those games out of him where I was like, okay, there it is. He tied everything together. But I do like him as a stash in both Dynasty if he's available, if your rosters aren't that deep, and especially in a 14-team PPR, I would look to pick up Pirine as well. Your boy Drew, Robbie, I'll come to you with this one: Minshew, Brady, Cousins, or Matt Ryan. You talked about liking Minshew earlier. Are you rolling with him, or are you going with you already said you would start Minshew over Cousins? Brady doesn't have a great matchup against Green Bay. That defense has been playing pretty well, especially in their passing defense. Who are you going to go with here? Are you going Minshew, or are you going to go one of these other 3?
No, I'll go Matt Ryan. He has his full complement of weapons with Julio back, and I think this is his get back to Matt Ryan that we've seen in previous years. He's been struggling the last couple of weeks, but I like that Falcons offense against Minnesota.
Are you guys so with that game though? Because on paper it doesn't, but I mean it's been bet up. It started at a 52 and it's been bet all the way up to a 55. It's one of the highest totals on the weekend, so they're going to have to score some points here on the Tampa Bay side. But even on the Green Bay side, would you guys play somebody like Marquez Valdez-Scantling this week? Because I've seen a lot of places where people are really down on him this week. Like people ranking him as like wide receiver 70. And I'm like, get out of here. Like what? Like he's the number 2 wide receiver. And this is a game that's projected to score a lot of, put up a lot of points. So I don't know. Like I feel like Marquez Valdez-Scantling is somebody that people should be looking at as well on the Green Bay side of things, especially with, I know Devontae Adams is going to command a large target share here, but Tampa Bay has been really good against the run. This is year 2, where they've been basically a pass funnel. So.
Yeah, Kev, completely. I've kind of put him in that high ceiling, really low floor type of area. Same as Marvin Jones, maybe John Brown coming off of injury, Russell Gage. MVS is in that range of wide receivers for me. I have them just outside flex. They're all in the low 40s for me. So if you're looking for that high ceiling, maybe a boom play, absolutely fine with MVS.
Scriv has a follow-up, needs 3 of these 5 receivers. Cav, I'm going to come to you for this one. Julio, Evans, Edelman, Jefferson, Shenault. Which 2 are you benching? Which 3 are you starting there?
I'm going Julio. I hate Mike Evans. I'm not I have dropped him down. I have him at wide. He's barely a wide receiver 2 this week. If he doesn't find the end zone, we're talking about Mike Evans being absolutely horrendous to start this year because he has. I mean, his production has all become basically touchdown dependent. He's not seeing the volume. They're not throwing deep as much, so he's just not seeing that type of production. So it's tough to trust Mike Evans on a weekly basis because if he does not find the end zone, it's a rough day for Mike Evans. And now with Chris Godwin back, like I don't know how much of that he's going to see. He has been dealing with some injuries as well, but like I said, I mean he just hasn't played very well outside of the touchdowns. Like that's what saved him so far this year. So for me, it's Julio. I probably still go Mike Evans and hope that he finds the end zone, and then I'll probably go with Justin Jefferson. But I really want to play Laviska Shenault, but I would go probably Jefferson here.
Yeah, Mike Evans isn't quite to that level for me. I mean, he's had 2 100-yard games out of 5. I mean, I think we just have seen him get a 1-yard pass touchdown 3 different times this season, and that puts it in his head that, he's been, he's gotten 1 reception, 2 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions, 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the other games, I mean, 7 for 104 and a touchdown, 7 for 122 and a touchdown, 5 for 41 and a touchdown. So it's not like he's been bad when he's, not just gotten that 1-yard pass for a touchdown. He's produced 2 100-yard games, so I'm absolutely starting Mike Evans.
Then your third one, are you going with Jefferson there over Shenault, Robby?
Yes. Like
I do like Shenault this week.
Yes. Chark is it looks like he's gonna play anyways. He got a practice in there. They're expecting him to go. We'll have to monitor that. Actually, inactives are probably out now. So yeah, I would like to try and get Shenault in there if I could, but Jefferson is an absolute third for me.
Kev, Emery needs 2 of these and a half PPR. Mixon, JT, Terry, AJ Brown.
Mixon and JT.
Not rocking with AJ? Are you just high on JT this week?
Well, you know what? No, actually, I'll go JT and AJ Brown.
And sit Mixon. Okay. Robby, who are you going with out of these 2? Saw you nodding there. Are you also with JT and AJB?
Yeah, I think I am. I'm not, trying to fade Mixon at all, but just with this, I'll probably go AJ Brown.
The only concern with AJ Brown is does this turn into because it wouldn't surprise me if he only had 4 or 5 targets. Adam Humphries is back, Corey Davis is back, which is different from what it was last week. So there's going to be more action there. Do they have to throw the ball today? Are they able to get up early and not really throw the ball? Because if he only ends up with 5 targets, this could be a 4 for 60 type game, So that would be the only concern with AJ Brown. Ceiling wise, I think AJ Brown wins over Drake, but volume wise, or not Drake, Mixon. But in terms of but I think floor, I think Joe Mixon has a much higher floor than what AJ Brown does.
I do not think Corey Davis is back. I think he is very unlikely to play. I'm going to look up and see if he's officially out, but it said unlikely to play yesterday.
Then Wynn has a quarterback question for us. Kev, I'll throw this to you while Robbie is looking that up. Rodgers or Kyler Murray today?
Kyler. It's close. Yeah, I mean, I have Kyler at 3 and then Murray at 4. Or Aaron Rodgers at 4.
JB wants to know, is Chark playing? And then it looks like he is trending toward playing JB. And then Chase Edmonds or Michael Gallup, flex full PPR. Kev, who you rocking with between your boy Edmonds and my guy, who's my buy this week on the Wednesday live stream, which we are also doing now. So we're doing 2 live streams for you guys to answer some of these questions. Going live on Wednesday nights, and we'll be bringing in a guest and someone from outside the TFA realm just to get some more interaction going with the fantasy community as a whole. And then we'll be also obviously live Sunday mornings at 11. But Kev, full PPR flex spot, Chase Edmonds or Michael Gallup?
I would go Edmonds.
Jobby, you still looking stuff up, or how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I'm still looking stuff up, but I'd probably go Edmonds as well. It's just really hard to trust Gallup. Like Kev said, I'm not totally worried about that Cowboys offense, especially in a game that they're probably playing catch-up. But of all those 3 wide receivers, I'm most shaky about Michael Gallup.
Coop Dog wants to know. Coop Dog is also rocking with us on the West Coast, so I don't want to leave Coop Dog out of this. He's out there in Cali, along with Corey Moran out there in Oregon. We appreciate you guys jumping in this early with us. Coop wants to know, do you think I could attempt to trade Amari Cooper for Cooper Kupp or Jameson Crowder if Godwin trade is not accepted? Which one? Definitely don't go all the way down to Crowder. I know he's been playing well, but if you're trading somebody like Amari, it would be Cooper Kupp for sure. Graham wants to know Devontae Parker or A.J. Brown. Kev, who do you like out of those 2 receivers?
Yeah, so far I haven't been able to find anything that's ruled out Corey Davis yet, but it does not look like they're actually going to. Earlier in the week, there was talk that that he would be, because he's just on the COVID list, that he would be ready to come off the COVID list, but they have yet to do so. So he's actually still on the COVID list to this point. They have not brought him off of it. There is still a chance he could play today, but it's not looking good, I would say, because everything I've seen just by looking at it. So for me, it's A.J. Brown.
What's that Titans game?
It's
because they would have already.
It's noon.
They would have already brought him off that list, and if we didn't see them bring him off the COVID IR, then I think it's probably too late for that move.
We do have Chark is confirmed in, and Curtis Samuel is inactive for the Panthers. Kev, I'm going to throw this one to you. JJ Walsh wants to know Kenyan Drake or Daryl Henderson. Had Cook, who was injured, Wilson Metcalf on bye. So who you rocking with out of Drake or Henderson?
I would go Drake. I don't love it, but Henderson's in a 3-way committee with Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers. So, yeah, it's Kenyan Drake as much as I'm not excited about it.
I would not play Drew Brees in this next question. He is on bye. That helps our man A machine.
And even if he was playing, I would still be Matt Stafford.
Oh yeah, Matt Stafford. I think they finally get it right this week. He hasn't quite shown who he was from last season before. What was it? First half of the season, Matt Stafford was like QB3. We haven't quite seen him return to that level, but I think he is a top 8 play for me this week. Jags are starting 2 rookie cornerbacks. They're missing their free safeties, so absolutely fire up Stafford, Galladay, and I think if you're desperate, kind of like that MVS boomer bust play, Marvin Jones as well.
We have another Stafford question. Patrick, I'll jump back to your defensive question since we just got this one with Stafford. But Stafford versus the Jags or Big Ben versus the Browns. Robbie, who you like out of those 2?
Man, I wrote down 2 quarterbacks I wanted to highlight this week, and it was both Stafford and Big Ben, and just absolutely smashed.
Well, now you got to pick.
Yeah,
well,
now I have
Lito
to
wants to know. Now you got to pick. Now you got to pick.
Oh, man. Give me Matt Stafford. I'll go either one, but give me Matt Stafford, I suppose.
I do like Stafford with the edge just because, like I said earlier, I think the Steelers are going to be able to control that game. I'm a little surprised that they're only 3 to 3.5 point favorites. I like them to cover that if you were into the whole betting deal. So I do like that, but I would give the edge to Stafford. Robbie, coming right back to you for this one, since you are the defensive guru here.
You say that every week. I don't think it's any more true.
I'm just going to keep saying it until it is true. But Patrick wants to know Rams D or Dolphins D.
I have them 3 and 4, either one. You could play absolutely either one, but I'll go Rams. Just I think their defensive line is a lot better at getting sacks. So just as a team that I can for sure get 3 or 4 sacks against that San Francisco line. But both are great plays.
Kevin, do you want to disagree?
You want to break the tie? Listen, I'm playing whatever defense is facing the Jets, okay? Every week. I don't care who it is. I don't care when it is. This team is so bad. They have no weapons.
Did you not tweet that Jets beat Dolphins? I thought I saw a Fantasy Wrath 13 tweet about Jets beating the Dolphins.
No, absolutely not.
Maybe
I
it's
think
someone else.
if he is, I think he's trying to will that into existence because of the offseason bet where he put money.
Yeah, it's not looking. It's not looking good. If they would fire fucking Adam Gase, okay, that's what needs to happen. Like, let's just get rid of all of our fucking actual, talent that we have and just keep the shitty ass coach who has destroyed now 2 franchises in his career. And the only reason he is a head coach is because Peyton Manning made his career. So, anyways, I digress. But yes, I'm playing whatever defense is facing the Jets every single week. So it is Miami.
Probably coming right back to you on this one. Mason wants to know Steelers D or Chiefs, and then also some waiver wire options if you don't like either one of those.
Steelers. Baker has been injured all week. OBJ's been sick. They turned the ball over. I will definitely go the Steelers defense. They don't even need a poor offense to be a good defensive play.
Yeah, and Wyatt Teller for the Browns, their starting guard is out, and that does not help either.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are averaging 3 or 4 sacks a game. So yeah, absolutely.
Are these coming through twice? I think JB was the same one, and then there's a different one from AMC, but we already answered this one too, right? We had the same question with AJ Brown and Devontae Parker.
No, they were in the same question. I don't think we've had them. For me, it's AJ Brown.
Yep, same.
That threw me off there because I'm pretty sure that same question came in like right after JB's question as well. So it was like an inception or something. Frankie Wolf wants to know, joining us in the YouTube chat, James Washington, Greg Ward, Keelan Cole, Amendola, pick 2.
I love this question. I mean, anytime I get to stand for Keelan Cole,
yes,
it's coming. Okay, so and it's a good matchup. Keelan Cole has been just like steady. Give you, it's not he has not boomed. You're not going to get 30 fantasy points or 25 fantasy points or probably even 20 fantasy points out of Keelan Cole, but he is good every week to get you 8 to probably 12, 13 fantasy points. The guy just continues. So Keelan Cole, I've already won whatever, just my offseason love of Keelan Cole that nobody talked about him. I feel like I've already won. He's done enough. He can rest easy the rest of the season if he'd like. But he's going to continue helping people. So, yeah, it's Keelan Cole and James Washington for me without Deontay Johnson.
Robbie, you feel the same? Or are you thinking about plugging in Ward or Amendola?
No, yeah, I'll go the same with Kev there, Washington and Keelan Cole.
And if you don't want to go Washington, I think if Demarcus Robinson's available for the Chiefs without Sammy Watkins, I think Demarcus Robinson becomes a really interesting play tomorrow against the Buffalo Bills. So he's probably going to see some red zone targets. He's likely to see anywhere. I mean, I think that he could step right in and take over Sammy Watkins' role in that offense, or at least soak up a lot of what he does. So I like DeMarcus Robinson as kind of a. I know a lot of people are going to want to play McCole Hardman. I'm surprised we haven't had more McCole Hardman questions, but I think McCole Hardman's more boom or bust, and I think DeMarcus Robinson you can probably count on somewhere 8 to 12, somewhere fantasy points. I think is probably where I'll be looking to him come in. He's not something that's going to go out and crush all the weapons they have, but I think DeMarcus Robinson's a viable flex option this week.
Sam Joshi wants to know Gibson or Drake at the flex. I think we're all on the Gibson train for this week. Dan, in his survival league, picked the Giants to win today over Washington. How do we feel about that?
Well, they certainly have a shot. The Washington football team is also not good. So the Giants, man, is Daniel Jones a bust? Can we definitively say that yet? I know it's only been a year and a half a season almost, but
definitively, I won't say definitively just yet, but the hype that was on him, particularly in like Superflex Dynasty leagues this offseason, was out of fucking control. It didn't make any sense to me. Like that I never understood that hype. He did have 4 really tough matchups to start the year. Last week, obviously, that should have been the get right spot, and he still could not get right. So definitively, I mean, it's close. It's close. He's going to have to.
I wish the offensive line would even be like functional, because the offensive line for the Giants has been about as bad as you possibly can be. So that really hasn't helped him either. He's much better with a clean pocket, so as is most quarterbacks, obviously. But so I don't know if we're to the point where we can 100% say he's a bust, but it's not looking good. It's trending in the wrong direction.
Ton, if you're able to do a different pick, Dolphins, I like that better. Steelers, you probably already used, but Steelers and then New England Patriots against coming off of their own bye against Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. Those are 3 other options I would much prefer over picking the New York Giants.
Yeah, especially with Noah Fant out. I mean, their weapons that they're going to be running out here is not going to be good. No Melvin Gordon either. So
yeah, Fant out, Gordon out, KJ Hamler out. Lock coming off an injury. So
it's going to be Jerry Jeudy week. Jerry Jeudy is just going to go nuclear this week.
I want to see it. I do want to see it. Max out here just moving and shaking, making moves, trying to do it all out here. Wants to know, do I trade Robbie Anderson for James Robinson? Would still have him, Michael Thomas, Hopkins, Jefferson, and Claypool.
If he needs the running back, yeah.
Kev was already shaking.
Oh wait, no, never mind.
He's getting James Robinson, so yeah. Kev is Hall of Fame jacket on top of that. So
the guy fitted, dude. Hey, I'm sorry. I enjoy a good story. You don't, Robbie. You just enjoy crushing people every week. Okay, I enjoy a good story, seeing this guy rise up from obscurity, and be able to go out and just slay every single week. You got people this week talking about Divine and Zigbo all of a sudden coming back like they think he's going to be a factor. You can get all the way the fuck out of here with that. Like it is James Robinson. Okay, it is James Robinson. The dude is smashed. He is a locked in RB1. You go for that.
Yeah, top 6 play this week. The Lions are just absolutely gutted by running backs week in, week out. So I'm with you there this week, Kev.
Chris has 2 questions for us. DJ Chark or Moore, and then Tanny or Minshew. Kev, who you got for Chris here?
Well, I'm going to go Tannehill at quarterback.
And then Chark or DJ Moore. Battle of the DJs on Chris's roster.
I'm going to go with Chark.
I'll go Minshew and Chark.
I mean, it makes sense. Go with a little stack there, but
yeah.
I just like Tannehill a little bit more.
Last Fish joining us in Twitch again. Half point PPR needs 2 of these running backs: Freeman, Lindsey, Singletary. I mean, I think that's easily Lindsey and Singletary. Correct.
I don't know about that. I don't know if it's easily. My question is, Lindsey, yes. Singletary,
yeah,
no.
I was thinking Royce Freeman. That's why I immediately went to easily. I was like, yeah, of course, like duh. Okay.
Is Zach Moss back this week?
Yeah, he's back, right? He practiced in full, which is kind of shaky because he practiced in full the last 2 weeks and they've sat him out. But he practiced in full the entire week. So maybe I shouldn't assume that, but I think he is back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he is. I would probably go Devonta Freeman and Lindsey.
I'll stay with.
Yeah, it's risky. I'll say that. Just because I don't know how involved Zach Moss is going to be in this offense. Devin Singletary has looked okay, but it's not like he's been out here eater of worlds and has just locked up this job. So Devonta Freeman has taken over this backfield. He's getting a lot of pass catching work as well now. So I'm not like Washington's front has been pretty good, but they've lost some pieces along that defensive line. I think that he can do enough to outscore Devin Singletary. Like I said, I think Devonta Freeman is legitimately right now a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 for most weeks. And I'm not particularly concerned with this matchup against Washington. So that's why I would probably go with Freeman and over Singletary and then go with Lindsey. But even Royce Freeman, though, I'll say that is a little is interesting for people that absolutely needed somebody if they're in a pinch this week, because I think that he's at least going to get 50% of this workload in this backfield. The problem is they're probably gonna get smashed, and so they're not gonna be running the ball too much, which kind of hurts Royce Freeman. So
I think Kev makes a lot of good points there, and with Zach Moss, it obviously makes Singletary's situation even more murky. But I'll probably start Singletary still over Devonta Freeman. I mean, Washington's front seven is continually overlooked. They're not a bad matchup, they're not a good matchup, but they're kind of right in the middle. And then actually the Chiefs actually give up quite a bit of rushing yards to running backs. I think they're like top 4 in yards to running backs, top 3 in yards to running backs. So I will stick with Singletary and do Philip Lindsay there.
Walito has a tight end question for us. Fant was ruled out if you're joining us and you have not yet heard. So Fant is out along with Hamler and Melvin Gordon for the Broncos. So Walito has 3 options at tight end this week: Eric Ebron, Mike Gesicki, Hayden Hurst. Kev, who are you going with out of those 3?
I actually like all 3 of these options. But I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst. I like Gesicki a lot, but I feel like this is a game that they can kind of get ahead and control, and I don't know if they're going to have to throw the ball as much that we'd like them to. And Hayden Hurst, while he hasn't been necessarily impressive, he's still running a lot of routes. He's playing majority of the snaps. Last week he played 88% of the snaps. He ran 33 routes. He was targeted 6 times, but he only had 2 receptions for 8 yards. I mean, so he's still seeing a lot of targets. He's still out there running routes. So that's that kind of everything you're looking for. He just hasn't really done a whole lot with it since really the week 2 matchup where he had 18.2. But like I said, I think with getting Julio back and him drawing a lot of the attention away, I think Hayden Hurst is in play this week. And if he's going to continue to get targets, he's going to have a bounce back week. And I think this could be it. So I like Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I'll put Hayden Hurst as a distant third for me. If there's one thing that the Vikings do have, it's good safety play with Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris. Eric Ebron is going up against a good matchup. Cleveland, with everything else, they're also not good against the tight end. And Mike Gesicki, he's close behind Ebron, but I actually have Ebron as tight end 7 this week. He's gotten a lot larger of a target share this week, or the past 2 weeks. I think he's had 5 or 6 targets in each week the past 2 weeks, and so he's getting more involved. And with Deontay Johnson out, I'll just take him in a good matchup.
Oh, I'm happy you brought that up. Hayden Hurst also has run 40% of his routes from the slot, so he's not just right. He's not going to see a lot of that. They're going to line him up in the slot as well. So, and he's seeing the targets that you're looking for in a game that should be high scoring. To me, I just think it's Hayden Hurst very easy.
Is he seeing the targets? Like Hayden Hurst had one
Yeah,
target.
he's
2 weeks
so
ago.
right now on the season, he is 9th in targets among tight ends. He is 12th in fifth in routes run. He's had 12 targets the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'd say Julio coming back kind of eats into that target share for me. You say it's going to help him. I'm gonna say it. I'm not liking that quite as much. I mean, he had 8 yards last week. He had 1 yard 2 weeks ago. I'll much prefer Eric Ebron there.
That is why you're going to be wrong. We're going to be later. We'll be in the chat, and I'll be like, "See, listen, this is to start believing, and this is what happens. It's gonna be Hayden Hurst."
Well, there you go, Alito. That was no help. Jake Perms wants to know, got a battle of the Matts coming out here, Stafford or Matt Ryan. Robbie, which quarterback you rocking with there?
Yeah, like them both to actually have bounced back and finally get to the quarterbacks that we saw last year. Again, I'll probably just go Stafford by a hair. The Vikings are actually starting to get healthy at cornerback just a little bit. They have most of their guys back except for Holton Hill, who was probably going to be a backup anyways after everyone else got healthy. So maybe just Stafford by a hair.
Another quarterback question from Cali Coop Dog. Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? Kev, who are you going with there?
Josh Allen.
I'll probably go Lamar there.
Well, explain to me why. Tell me why you would go Lamar there.
Tell me why. Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about how you attack these two defenses, I think you attack the Chiefs with the run, and I think you attack Philadelphia through the air. Their front seven is good, and Lamar Jackson's ceiling, as much as we've seen Josh Allen, again, this Bills defense is not who they were last year, so we've seen Josh Allen have a really good ceiling, but Lamar Jackson, I think, just if you talk about a rushing total, Josh Allen actually hasn't had that rushing floor that we saw last year. He's making up for it with his passing, but Philly, I'd much prefer their secondary versus Kansas City secondary. And if you're talking about a ceiling and a floor, I'll take Lamar Jackson.
So, one, I don't care about how you attack the Chiefs. Teams aren't going to be just out here. They're not going to go out there and run the ball 35 times and take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, because the Chiefs there's a really good chance that I would say about a 95% chance the Chiefs bounce back and get out early in this game. The Chiefs have always, especially Andy Reid, has done well in like that short bye situation. So I expect the Chiefs offense to bounce back in a big way. So I think Josh Allen's going to have to throw the ball. I don't think that's going to happen with Lamar Jackson. I currently have Lamar Jackson, I think, ranked 5th or 6th this week. We can't keep looking at him about what happened last year, and I think that has been a problem because that's not who he's been this year, right? So right now he's QB 13, I believe, in fantasy points per game on the season, QB 12, QB 13. He's not throwing the ball. When he is throwing the ball, he's not throwing at an efficient clip on the season. If you look at him, he's actually 12th in deep ball attempts, but he is 29th in deep ball completion percentage. So he hasn't been getting that efficiency that we saw from him last year, which made him so effective. Now he is still seeing the rushing here. I'm throwing out what happened last week, because last week I think he only rushed for like 2 yards, which is a complete anomaly, and it's not going to happen again. But regardless of that, he's had 2 really good weeks, but 3 not great weeks. Okay, compared to last year,
not great weeks against your Kansas City Chiefs, I'll point out.
Okay, but we could throw that out as well, because we just saw Derek Carr absolutely destroy this defense, okay, and make him his bitch. So let's throw that out a little bit, because we've also seen Justin Herbert do some of that as well. Justin Herbert had a really good game against the Chiefs, threw for a lot of yards. So the Chiefs defense played a little bit over its head. Like the Chiefs defense, if they're getting pressure and they're able to do some of those things, then yes, they can be a defense to mess with. But I just Josh Allen, I just think, is in a better spot. So long-winded answer. Like, I'm not as excited about Lamar Jackson. People continue. I keep hearing people talk about what he did last year. I don't care what he did last year. Like, that matters for nothing anymore. Let's talk about what he's doing right now. He's had 2 good games against Washington and against Cleveland, where he threw up 25 and 27. And then other than that, there was week 2, he was QB 17. Week 3, he was QB 23, and last week he was QB 20. I think last year he was a QB1 every single week of the entire season. He'd never had 1 week when he wasn't. So we are seeing some regression, which is what we were expecting to come, but he's just been not as accurate as what we've seen. And his rushing totals really haven't been as impressive, right? He's had the one good game against Kansas City where he had 83 rushing yards. But past that, it's been 50, 40, and 50 fantasy points, or 40 or 50 rushing yards. And that has also hurt him, and he's not finding the end zone on the ground. So, and it's just this Philly matchup. This Philly front seven is really good. They can get pressure out on the quarterback. He's going to have to throw the ball. If he can't, it's going to be a little bit of a rough day here. So, like I said, it's Josh Allen.
Yeah, again, they're a spot different in my rankings, but we just saw what Ben Roethlisberger did to that Philly secondary. Like, this Philly secondary can be had. The Chiefs,
but that's not a fair. So that's not a fair comparison, though.
The Chiefs secondary has not given up over 20 points except for last week, which was a bad week for them. But if you're talking about going forward, most weeks they've played really, really well. So again, we'll go either one. I'm not going to stake my hill here with one rank difference. Both of them are good starts.
I just don't understand why you hate Josh Allen, Robbie. Jake Perms wants to know, pick 2 in a full PPR. Cav, McLaurin, Julio
and
Gibson.
Gibson.
Who are you benching?
Bench McLaurin.
Shades 721. Rest of season, Dalton or Burrow?
Dalton.
Close. Burrow's going to continue to improve. I'll probably go Burrow.
We got a couple of questions here from Chris B in the YouTube chat. 2 running backs. Cav, let's start with this one. Mixon, Drake, Edmonds, Rojo. Which 2 are you starting out of that 4?
Mixon and Edmonds. And then Judy
for sure.
And Cam.
Robbie, how are you feeling on these 3? I saw those eyes light up with the running back answer. We don't have time for a 10-minute.
We already know it's going to be Mixon and Rojo. All right, we already know how this is going to go. Okay, it's the wrong answer, but just that's where he's going to go, and he's probably going to go Judy, and then he's going to go, I think, Cam, and let's see if I'm right.
Yeah, you are right. Mixon and Rojo. Just the absolute volume there. It's insane to go away from that. I do like the Cardinals matchup, but as we've talked about, Edmonds is going to continue to eat into that Drake workload, so you're in a timeshare there. So if you're worried about Rojo and his timeshare with Leonard Fournette, who has been out last 2 weeks, he's going to be limited this week. Like, that's absolutely a Rojo game for me. Judy for sure, and then it's close between Fitz or Cam. I'll probably go Cam, but Fitz has been playing lights out, so I'm not telling anyone to bench Fitz in most situations, but I'll probably go Cam there.
Polito wants to know, is now the time to sell high on Amari Cooper with Dak out for the season? I think you have to wait for a big game first to sell high. I don't think you're going to get the return right now on Amari Cooper because Dak is out. So wait for that big game, or like a bigger game, because like Kev was talking about earlier, his snap share is dropping, his routes run have been dropping over the past couple of weeks. So wait until he has, like a 15-point fantasy week, and then try and sell after that. Got a trade question from John Sweaty in here. Do I trade Hopkins, Waller, and Lindsey for Cooper, Carson, LaVisca, and Fournette? So trading away D-Hop, Waller, Lindsey, getting back Cooper, Carson, LaVisca, and Fournette.
Not for me. Kev will say yes because it has Fournette in there. But
I looked up. I just saw Robbie shaking no, and I just saw Kev shaking yes. That is on brand. Fantastic.
Yeah, so if you're getting Cooper and Carson, I think one, like I said, Carson's been a top 5 running back this year. Those guys are hard to come by. It's not he is the absolute workhorse here. So Philip Lindsay doesn't matter to me. I don't care because I thought Melvin Gordon, maybe they were sitting because there was going to be a suspension coming. In reality, I think he's sick, right? He has sore throat. But I honestly don't think Melvin Gordon's going to get suspended this year because the NFL does not do anything until he has actually went to court and all that's happened. So I guarantee you they're going to push this off into the offseason. He's going to get a continuance over and over again, and then he'll do it over the offseason, and then he'll be suspended next year. So with Lindsey, then Lindsey becomes nothing. So you're selling high right now on Phillip Lindsay, and I like that. So really, to me, it comes down to Hopkins and Waller for Cooper, Carson, Laviska, and whatever you want to think about Fournette. But for me, so I would rather have Cooper, Carson, and Shenault over Hopkins and Waller.
Jobby?
Yeah, I just think it depends on this entire roster. If he really, it looks like Chubb's going to come back for him here in a couple weeks. I don't know who his other running backs are. So if he's desperate for a running back right now, Carson comes back. Don't make the trade this week, obviously. We're getting close to game time, but it just depends on what he needs. If he really needs running back help, I'll go Carson. But the three players in the top are better than the three players in the bottom for me.
Yeah, I mean, Hopkins obviously the best player.
Yeah,
that is
I'll take Waller over Laviska most weeks.
Though, so here's because that's my thing though. With Carson though, if Carson's coming out here and I just think Carson has a higher ceiling than what the wide receiver does, right? So in any argument, if we're talking about a top 5 running back versus the number 1 wide receiver, for the most part, I think Carson still provides something a little bit more than what Hopkins is. Listen. Do I think overall would I rather have Hopkins over Carson? I think it would really be really close. But I think once you just kind of add the other pieces into it with Cooper, okay, well, that levels some of it out for me. And then Shenault, as well as he's been playing, like I said, I would rather have those 3 over Hopkins and Waller. Robbie Anderson.
Yep.
Lamb.
Yep. You're muted, bud.
Yeah, you're muted. So that's why we're just jumping in.
Well, it
only took you 6 weeks to do that, though. As a host who's muting and unmuting a lot, I'm sure it took you 6 weeks to finally do that. So kudos on that.
Well, that's your opinion. Full PPR, Mecole Hardman or DJ Moore. Kev, who are you thinking here?
DJ Moore.
Matt Daly needs to sit one. Full PPR, Julio, Crowder, Juju, Cup.
Sitting Juju.
Whoa! Over Jameson Crowder. We don't have time to have this conversation, but we could definitely could. But it's Julio, Juju, and Cup.
I am also sitting Crowder there. Juju. The Browns. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but against slot receivers, they're one of the worst in the NFL. I can't remember exactly where they rank or what their numbers are, but they're like bottom 3 against slot receivers. Yeah, it's kind of what we figured there, John. So you'd be getting Carson and Cooper in that trade. Ray, the Steelers fan, we found out on Wednesday, Jonnu Smith versus the Texans or Tonyan versus the Bucks in a standard league.
Yeah, shove aside his Keelan Cole and Dan Arnold. Kev's best call, I think, this preseason was Jonnu Smith breakout, and we've absolutely seen that. He's a top 4 tight end, top 5 tight end for me going forward. I'm not trying to chase Robert Tonyan's blow-up game a couple weeks ago. I will go Jonnu Smith.
Especially with Devontae Adams back. So Devontae Adams could see 20 targets. But so yeah, it's Jonnu.
And going back to John's trade, it looks like other than Chubb, the other running back that he has is Rojo. So potentially could need that running back help there.
Yeah, I feel the opposite. It feels like he's safe there. We have a running back who's gotten 100 yards the past 2 weeks. Past 2 weeks, he's getting involved in the passing game. Fournette has not looked good the entire week except for one break-off run. I think it's Rojo's backfield.
It's like even going back to last year with Rojo, it just kind of worries me with him that Arians is really quick to yank him off the field if he just has a mistake. So like it's not necessarily the hot hand approach. It's just if you fuck up, you're done.
Well, everybody's been hurt too the last couple of weeks. So like he really didn't have any option. Who's he else going to play? Keyshawn Vaughn. Like that was literally the only other option. So with Leonard Fournette back, like I said, that's the worry for me. Is I think that like Ronald Jones hasn't been played terrible this year. He's played
great, man. The last 2 weeks he's breaking tackles on over 100-yard games. His yards after contact is over 4.5. Like we want to talk about giving respect to James Robinson and what he's doing. The last 2 weeks, Rojo has been absolutely on fire. So,
let's settle down a little bit with that. I wouldn't say it's not like
he's had more all-purpose yards than your Hall of Fame inductee James Robinson the past 2 weeks.
He's also on a much better offense. I would hope so, but he's still with that. He hasn't been an RB1 yet this year, even as good as he was. He still does not have an RB1 week yet. So. Sure. Well, so that's my issue. And like I said, we've had a lot of guys out. I think that had more to do with why he saw more targets. Now with everybody returning, that's what scares me. And I think that's what you're going to get from this. You can think whatever you want about Ronald Jones, and that's great. But Bruce Arians doesn't ever seem to agree. And Bruce Arians, like you said, is quick to all of a sudden throttle that down. If Leonard Fournette comes back healthy and Leonard Fournette has a big game, we could be talking about this just flipped. So, and that's what worries me about this entire backfield. And that's why I want no part of this backfield whatsoever. And that's why I've said, like, this is the perfect opportunity really to sell high on Ronald Jones, because with Leonard Fournette coming back, he gets more involved. He could easily just take some of this. Like I said, like we can think, Robbie, with all due respect, like you can think that like how great he's looked, but if Bruce Arians pulls him off the field and he doesn't start seeing this pass catching work, that's where, for me, like I just can't mess with him. And I think he's too much of a guy that you're going to end up having. What week you're going to want to play him, what week you aren't. So for me, like I just think this is the absolute apex and redraft to sell him. Whenever he has had 2 productive weeks in a row with Leonard Fournette coming back, he's going to get more involved back in this offense. He's going to take touches away from him, and this could end up turning into a 3-way committee again. And so that for me is what worries me.
Yeah, I guess I just don't see any reason for him. A couple weeks ago, we talked about why would James Robinson ever come off the field? He's playing well. Why would they take him off the field? I just see the same situation. It's hard to argue that on one side and not argue it on the other.
Well, no, but we've seen it, though, from Bruce Arians. We've seen it. We saw it last year.
They
were playing
previous
Peyton
year.
Barber.
I think this year's different. We talked about forgetting, adjusting our thoughts on the Bills offense, adjusting our thoughts on Lamar Jackson. Like, I think we need to throw last year out the window.
And they've already done it this year to him, too. So I don't know. That's just my concern with him. So
there's definitely
he's looked good. He's absolutely looked good. He's been playing well. Like I said, it just worries me with Arians that he's quick to just yank him out of there, because it was the fumble that led to Fournette getting the touches that led to like that 100-yard game that he had a couple weeks back, right? Wasn't it the fumble or like it was like a drop, I think, from Rojo.
Brady.
Yeah. So that's the only, like he's been looking good. He's been playing better than even whenever, like you said, Fournette, that 100-yard game, a lot of that came from one chunk play. But it does worry me slightly that Arians is quick just to yank him off the field. And he, like I said, he did it last year with fucking Peyton Jagass Barber. So, and Kev said there's been injuries there with McCoy and with Fournette. So anyway.
Does it worry you either that he has 0 goal line carries on the year? 0? None.
Mike Evans is their goal line back.
I don't know. We could talk. We can have a whole podcast.
We got Chav sitting here very patiently. Wanted to know half PPR needs one of these: Phillip Lindsay, Jerry Jeudy, James White, Robbie Anderson. Robbie Jeffries coming to you for this one. Which one of these are you playing in half PPR?
Ooh, I'll probably go Phillip Lindsay, but I don't fault him for not wanting to sit Robbie Anderson. I just think that Phillip Lindsay will have a lot of that workload to himself, and there's a lot of passes being thrown to those Broncos running backs.
Which one's the pie? Hey, which one's the pie? Which one's the food?
I see blood spilling out of Kevin's mouth as he is biting his tongue. I like one of the receivers. I think in this instance I would go Jeudy or Robbie Anderson. For me, personally.
I would go Robbie Anderson, but that's just me. And then second would be Judy. Third would probably be James White, and then Philip. Well, no. It'd be probably Lindsay. Listen. The thing with Lindsay is Royce Freeman. I think Royce. I'm trying not to just go on another 10-minute rant here, but Royce Freeman, I think, probably splits his backfield 50-50 with him, and so I think Royce Freeman's more involved than what you're thinking that he's going to be. So, and Philip Lindsay is coming off a toe injury, which he could easily re-aggravate here. So there is some concern with Philip Lindsay here, and this just isn't a great matchup against the Broncos either. So,
yeah, he's had another week to heal up. He was going to go last week, so another week to heal up from that injury. But yes, there's always the re-injury concern. And Royce Freeman, even with their two-back system, hasn't been getting more than 20% snap share anyways. So, not really worried about him eating into that.
Melvin Gordon and Royce Freeman are pretty redundant assets. They're kind of the same guy, where Philip Lindsay's a little bit different in terms of what you're going to ask from them and how they're going to be utilized. So,
Logan, we had this question earlier. Robbie wants Lamar. I am going with Kev with Josh Allen on these two between the quarterbacks. So 2-1 in favor of Josh Allen. Max out here. Another potential trade question: Robbie Anderson and Ingram for Connor. I think if you can get the James Robinson deal done from earlier, that is the route I would go. But if he can't get that done, do you guys like this trade, Anderson and Ingram for Connor? It doesn't really bother me to lose Ingram. We talked about the Baltimore usage and snaps and everything earlier. So to me, this is kind of Anderson for Connor. And Connor, his snaps have actually, with the Steelers, have typically been a one-back workhorse kind of system for as long as I can remember. But Connor did have his snaps have been dropping a little bit. He played 77% of the snaps in week 2, and then week 3 and 5 that dropped down to 66 and 63%. And Benny Snell's came up during that time from 19 to 20. And now Anthony McFarland is also getting some touches. He had 12% of the snaps in week 3, and then 7% of the week snaps, 7% of the snaps in week 5. So if he can't get the James Robinson up, it was rejected. So Anderson and Ingram for Connor. Which side do you like here if Max is out there trying to get a running back?
I think he should be able, with how well Robbie Anderson's been playing, keep Ingram, because one injury to that backfield, and I'm much more comfortable starting Ingram. So if he can do Robbie Anderson for Connor, I would do that. But when you throw in Robbie Anderson and Ingram, we've talked about how we can't really trust Ingram, but he keeps falling into the end zone. If anything happens to J.K. Dobbins, he's a play every single week for me.
Kev, do you like Robbie Anderson or Connor, or would you even make that trade? Non-PPR, Robbie Anderson, James Connor.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, I mean, I would. I mean, he's getting touchdowns, which is standard formats matters so much more than what they're doing in the passing game. So that kind of gets thrown out. Running back, especially in standard league, are way more valuable than a wide receiver is. So if you can get James Conner there, yeah, I would do that. If there is concerning that after week 2 and 3 that the touches went down a little bit there, or not the touches so much as the opportunity, the snap share. But he still ran just about as many routes. He's still involved in the passing game. So, and he scored a touchdown in 3 straight weeks. So I would look to see if somebody like Benny Snell or Anthony McFarland is available, because I would also want to add them, because we know James Conner could get hurt at any moment.
Walito has a little bit of a philosophy question here for us. Do you think Jonathan Taylor's value would be higher if Brissett was playing instead of Rivers? I think Jonathan Taylor's value would be higher if they just stopped giving fucking touches to Jordan Wilkins for no fucking reason. I think that is the issue. Not necessarily the quarterback play. They obviously still got one of the top lines in football whenever they are fully healthy. Just for whatever reason, they're still making this a 3-headed backfield for no reason. But back to his question, do you think it would matter if it was Brissett instead of Rivers? Robbie, how do you feel on that one?
I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I think, like you said, it's more of how often Jonathan Taylor's out there. Philip Rivers obviously checked down king to his running backs, but Naheem Hines is kind of getting more of that more often. So I think Phillip Rivers probably gives him a couple more passes each week to the running back position, but it's probably a wash.
Tan wants to know, is Carson Wentz droppable? This is where we're at. Could you drop Wentz? It kind of seems like he is his QB2. So Tan, who's your QB1? I mean, typically we're not gonna suggest to carry two quarterbacks anyway. And with the way Wentz has been playing, if you have someone who's just locked in to that QB1 spot for you, then I definitely think that he's droppable.
I don't think that he is, and here's why. And so their early season schedule was not great, right, in terms of defenses, but it is about to open up. And if you've held on to him for this long,
should not be carrying a second quarterback at all. He's absolutely droppable.
Well, in this situation, yes, I think I would drop just because you have Kyler. But for most people that have Carson Wentz, or if Carson Wentz is available, I would be holding on to Carson Wentz because the remaining schedule is the Giants, Dallas, bye, Giants, Cleveland, Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans, Arizona, and Dallas. Like, it opens up tremendously. I think that they're getting Jalen Reagor back. He could be back as early as this next week. I think that's what his projected return date was week 7. Alshon Jeffrey and Sean Jackson sound like they're getting close. So they're finally going to have all their weapons back, and I think this is going to help the offense. And the remaining schedule among their defenses, there's really not anybody in here that I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a tough one for this offense. So I think things can really start to progress and get going for him. And so I think even he's a great buy low, also, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction to make. In a vacuum, Wentz droppable, probably not, because you probably drafted him to be your QB1. But Tam, for you, with Kyler being your guy, he definitely is droppable. And like I said, we would never suggest to carry two quarterbacks like that. So I would just worry about streaming that position whenever Kyler goes on by. Max said he could also put in Harris for Ingram. I would not do that either. I would rather trade away Ingram over Damian Harris.
I mean, if you're really trying to get a running back, go after like a Chase Edmonds or Antonio Gibson, guys like that. Those guys are going to be easier to acquire. They're not going to cost you as much as some. You're going after like an upper echelon running back. Those guys are going to take so much more, and you're going to have to give up so much more to get them. Like, I would rather go get depth pieces like a Chase Edmonds for whenever he takes over this backfield. Or guys like that, Antonio Gibson, Devonta Freeman, guys that maybe they're not as sexy as names, but it's also not going to cost you as much to acquire.
Luke Miller _02 in the Periscope wants to know, Parker or Godwin. It's supposed to be raining down there in Miami. I mean, for me, that'd be Godwin almost no matter what.
Yep, regardless of weather, Godwin for me.
Cole Lambert, Crowder or Cooper? A lot of Jameson Crowder questions today. Crowder or Cooper? I'll throw that one to the Dallas homer. Who you rocking with there, Robbie?
It's getting close. Crowder is just eating up that target share there, and in PPR, this is definitely pretty close. But I will go Cooper.
Trey S wants to know, choose 2 full PPR. Kevin, going to toss this one to you. Needs 2 of these full PPR: DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, or Devin Singletary.
I'm going to go Moore and Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I think that is the play as well. All right, guys, we are at 12:30. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? Anything else you wanna throw out to the TFA fam as we go into week 6?
If he's available, add the Michael P. Ryan, and as long as in 12-team leagues and above, I don't want to wait until it waivers and then all of a sudden he gets 10 carries today or 10 touches, and he ends up getting 10, 11 fantasy points or something like that. I don't expect anything major, but and then he's kind of one of the higher waiver ads for this upcoming week. He's still wildly available. I think I was looking; he was like only rostered in like 10% of leagues. So if he's out there, I think he's worth a stash because Frank Gore is just Frank Gore, and so I think he could end up taking over this backfield. Again, it's not a sexy pickup. It's not something that he's going to win you the league, but he's somebody that can at least provide you with some nice depth, with these waivers coming up or with buys that we continue to roll through. So somebody like that, guys like that, I would rather be early on than late. Or Jalen Reagor, as we mentioned, who's supposed to be back. Need help at wide receiver. Add him now because he is supposed to be back.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that last point, I think now is the time to start trading for a lot of these rookies. Cam Akers, Deandre Swift, Jerry Jeudy. We've hit on a lot of these guys, but we're going to start seeing these rookies start to get worked in. At the beginning of the year, I was like, I want to be patient on these backfields that are really clustered. But now I think we'll start to see these rookies get more and more snap share. They didn't have an offseason. Now they've had 6 weeks of football, 5 weeks of football for some. So I think you should try, and even with CEH, who just had Lev Bell come into town, Jonathan Taylor, who hasn't quite been what we wanted. I think you can buy low on a lot of these guys for different price points. But I would say just start trying to pick up these rookie players. T. Higgins as well.
Last question here from Mason: Mark Ingram or Adrian Peterson?
I'll probably, yeah, that's icky. I might go Mark Ingram there.
I think I'm going to go AP as well. Patricia, just for whatever reason, he has DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson there, and he is still just rocking AP. And the Jags, I think, are in the top 10 in terms of the amount of rushing yards that they've given up to running backs. And I think the spread on this game, it's a high total, but it's only like a 3-point spread. So they're not going to be playing from behind. Peterson should be, probably looking at 12 to 15 carries, I would assume.
Yeah, 54.5. You know what? I need to take in those matchups. I will go Adrian Pearson as well.
God, it's so gross. Last fish in the pond with the last comment here. Everybody have a great Sunday. Hope you guys have a nice week 6. The waivers will be coming out. We'll be doing that again with the waivers and streams. We'll be going live again on Wednesday for week 7 to answer all of your start sit questions. Then don't forget about the DFS show. Don't forget about the podcast. The Dynasty podcast has been the only one coming out on the TFA airwaves recently. Kevin and I have been neglecting you guys. We promise that is coming to an end. We are going to get our shit together. Actually, if you were still rocking with us, let us know this. For start sit content, would it be more helpful for you guys to have if we go through rankings, like quarterback rankings for start sit, or if we would go through and break down game by game? We're going to sign off here, but if you were watching, there's still some of you here. Please let us know if it'd be more helpful for a rankings kind of thing, or if we went through game by game. That's how we're going to do the start sit for the pod and video portion. And like I said, we'll be going live again on Wednesdays to answer all of your week 7 questions. So best of luck to you guys. Hope you guys have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.